Hey friends, welcome back. Today we are going to get into the gait aspect of plantar fasciitis. If you have tight feet and or have actual plantar fasciitis, you're probably walking funny. I have a leg that I walk funny on, and so I've really nerded out about gait form for the last 10 years. And I've read a lot and I've gone to several workshops. So today is going to be kind of my best hits of all of that I've read and that I've learned. And you can do it all from home. So let's first even talk about what the different phases of gait are. So we're supposing that I'm in this stance phase on my standing leg. I'm going to swing through this leg, heel strike, plant. I just toed off on my back foot, and then I'm swinging through this leg. What I find that with people who have plantar fasciitis is that in this heel strike, so heel strike to midfoot, it's all like one big clunk and they kind of don't roll through the mid-arch. You'll hear this a lot if you walk down a hallway or even in certain shoes, that it'll just kind of, the sound between your feet may sound different, or you'll hear that kind of clopping sound instead of more of a gradual roll through the foot. One of my favorite exercises to play with this is that you would wade into one foot, you would naturally just step back at a diagonal, so whatever feels normal. And you're going to play with that rocking motion. So I'm wading back into my back leg. I'm going to kind of spring up off of my back foot. Weight transfers through my pelvis into my front leg. So I kind of think of this as like a slinky. So the slinky comes up and it kind of gradually rounds forward from that momentum. And then once you get a feeling for this, you can then just take that step forward and practice the same thing on the other leg. So now I'm wading back. I kind of bend into that back knee. Weight transfers up and through. And there's something called ground reaction force. It's that idea that everything has an equal and opposite reaction, so that as my body weight strikes into the ground is actually pushing back up into me, and then that's what causes my body to shift. So that it isn't always about pounding the pavement, but actually that the ground and gravity is helping push back up into you, and you might find that the locomotion that you feel in gait changes in your body. So in these next bits, we're going to start looking at a little bit of rotation. And a couple of these exercises are taken from a workshop I did with James Earls. He has a book called Born to Walk. I don't think if you're the average person, you would really need to purchase the book. If you're like a movement therapist or a yoga instructor, spot on. It's really, really, really nerdy. But these are a couple exercises that I found to be particularly effective from his workshop. So we're going to stance on one foot, and you're going to play with rotating, spiraling forward over that stanced leg, and then come back to neutral. So you want to feel that those bones of the standing leg are doing this. They're kind of rotating in as my other foot comes forward. If you have knee problems, I wouldn't do a ton of repetitions of these, like 3 to 4. And then you're going to do the same idea but backwards. So that opens. And so where that's opening from is my hip socket. It's doing that and coming back. We'll do the same thing on the other leg, but even just kind of take a check-in, and you might feel very different on the leg that you just did versus the one that was doing the actual spiraling. I would even encourage you to just take a little walk around and feel the difference between your two sides. So we stance and come forward. So here too, the femur's rotating in. And then we'll step back and do that same thing. Okay, next thing. One of the main principles of James's book was looking at elastic recoil. So thinking about kind of the body as a series of like elastic pulleys. So think of like rubber bands that are kind of all working together. That's a really simplistic way of looking at it. But the idea being that whenever you are walking, it isn't, I always think of like and Star Wars nerds are going to totally nab me on this one, but like the big machine guys that are kind of like, you know, having these very jarred motions instead of very fluid, you know, think of somebody who's a dancer. So the idea with this exercise is to try to get the idea of spiraling in the body and elastic recoil. So we've talked a lot about fascial chains and this whole thing, plantar fasciitis. It's a fascial thing. It's inflammation of the plantar fascia of the foot. So the whole point of this course was looking at loosening up fascial chains, and then now how do those fascial chains react with one another in gait? So again, oftentimes what I find with people with plantar fasciitis is we have some of these fascial chains that are really, really tight, and the skin's even tight, and so someone's just walking with tight skin rather than feeling some of these more fluid pulley systems working on one another. But particularly we want that spiral pulley, because I mentioned this in the first video, I think, that whenever we see our footprints in sand, they're zigzagged. It's not on a straight line. We don't walk on a tightrope. So this particular exercise is to kind of reinforce that between your torso and your lower half. So you'll step forward at whatever pace or distance feels normal. You're going to bend that front knee, and we'll do, let's say, 5 pulses. I'm going to twist this arm over my knee. And you're going to let your whole body move exactly how it wants to move. So don't try to control anything. Then you're going to go mid-thigh. Then you're going to go at your hip. And then you're going to go at your chest. And then we're going to open the other way. And then as you open the other way, you're going to gradually straighten that back arm. And this is another one that it is a super trippy experiment to walk around a little bit after you do one side. So we'll go kind of deep in that lunge position. I am up on my back toes, by the way, because that'll allow me to spiral more. So notice my hips are rocking, then I go mid-thigh. I always feel like Michael Jackson in Thriller when I do this. I don't know. I think, yeah, one of the parts of the dance that he does. I'm gonna go here. This is the part that makes me feel more like Thriller. And we go open, 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 to gradually, like so. Okay, one last exercise. So this last exercise is a little bit of a shift from the elastic recoil idea. This is more about really trying to sense the rotation of your upper body on your lower body. So if you gently press your palms together, you might feel a connection to your diaphragm and to your core. Hopefully you do. You can play with rubbing your hands together and see if that kind of increases that sensation. You can also shake your hands and see if that increases that sensation. But what we're going for here is that if you stand and twist, can you feel something happening in that mid portion of your body? And if we were to make this more like walking, because once again, this happens, it's a cross-body relationship, can you weight into your standing leg and twist over the hovering leg? And you can kind of just step down and do that. If you really wanted to make that challenging, you could bring the leg backwards and kind of just tap the toe down like you were doing the toe off phase and swing that up. We'll do that on the other side. That was my better side, so we'll see how this side goes. So I'm going to start with the tap down. I'm going to stand up, swing that up, tap down. You'll probably find that whichever leg is easier to balance on, oftentimes that it's the standing leg that you would stand on if you were to kick a ball. So, you know, that's my power leg. So if you're right side dominant, you might expect that your balance is going to be better on the left leg. Last one. Great. Next 2 videos will be a couple of basic and intermediate workouts that will kind of reinforce some of these patterns that we've talked about over this course. Please subscribe if you want to be notified of those. And also please subscribe for future courses that we're going to do just on super common neuromuscular pattern things like carpal tunnel, wrist pain, as well as frozen shoulders coming up. Thanks for watching.